Welcome in, fans. Another episode of the Two Line Pass podcast. I am Randon here with Dustin tonight. Our third member of the crew is out sick. Ryan has quite the nasty bout of flu and wants to make sure that he can, or at least he's going to try to get to work tomorrow. So we're giving him the night off, and that's okay. Where there were three, there are now two. We are killing this penalty, Dustin. I couldn't ask for a better partner to do it with. How you feeling tonight?
I'm feeling pretty darn good. A little, let's say, misty-eyed. One thing I love in sports, and it's happened a couple of times, like teams taking the field without a certain position lined up, or a couple of years ago, Arizona's football team carried a jersey out for a coin flip for a teammate that they had lost. Being a University of Utah fan, having the number 22 retired, and the tribute to both Ty Jordan and Aaron Lowe in Portal 22. And then tonight, the Columbus Blue Jackets took the ice for the opening faceoff without a left winger for Johnny Gaudreau, who had passed away earlier in the season of life. I believe both him and his brother were hit by a drunk driver. Both of them lost their lives. Lives lost way too early. And I like to say, I find a special place in my heart for those types of touching moments. So a little misty-eyed tonight, but we're okay.
Absolutely. Gaudreau was a very talented hockey player, and the hockey world lost a great person and a great player. And it's one thing to mention, too, because there was a lot of talk about in the home opener how it was the most beer sales of any Delta Center environment. Guys, if you're going to go to the game and you're going to drink, or go anywhere and you're going to drink, man, it's so easy to have somebody take you home. Today's day and age, there is no excuse for driving while drunk or intoxicated. It's so easy to get an Uber. It's so easy to get a Lyft. It's so easy to get a friend. Utah, I do believe the tracks and front runner run late. They can get you to stations, get your head clear. Like, guys, come on, just be smart when you're here, because that guy that ended up hit him, I think he was well over twice the legal limit, and it's just no excuse, guys. So very sad moment for the hockey world, and a very touching tribute tonight. So hearts go out to the Gaudreau family and the Columbus Blue Jackets organization. And now we turn our attention to the Utah Hockey Club. Just 4 games into the season, there is a lot to talk about. You've heard us break down each game in the post-game shows, but we want to talk about the season as a whole and what's to come. There's a lot of things happening, and I like to extrapolate what's going to happen at game 82 based on just these 4 games. 4 games is an excellent sample size to make an inference like that, and I'm going to tell you who's going to win the division. I'm going to tell you who's not going to win the division, because we already know based on these games. No, while there's still so much hockey left to be played, Dustin, there are some bright spots and some needs improvements on this team, and I think a lot of them are what we share. But I want to let's talk about the brightest spot first, if that's okay. We're going to talk about Dylan Guenther, league leading still at 5 goals. Are you surprised at his output this early in the season, Dustin?
I mean, I'm not surprised. He's very good, and he's very gifted offensively. The Utah Hockey Club posted a TikTok, actually, asking players who they thought was going to score the first goal of the season, and our captain himself said that it was going to be Dylan Guenther. I don't. It is a little surprising to me that the leading scorer in the entire league is a second line forward. But that's very impressive. It shows that he's taking advantage of every single minute that he's on the ice. And very, very impressive, very gifted. And also what I've liked this season, and it doesn't show up nearly as much because goal scorers get all the attention, is Logan Cooley with 5 assists as well. So very, very impressive offensively, this team.
Absolutely, and they're line mates there on that second line, and both Logan Cooley and Dylan Gunther play on the power play. So you're going to continue to see them a lot, and I hope that Dylan Gunther continues to produce these numbers because we knew he was going to be good, right? We knew. I think we all had him as a 30 goal scoring board, or at least right about there, I mean, between 25 and 30. We weren't sure how his sophomore year was actually going to go, but they're paying him to score those goals. And I think we're going to see him continue to blossom into a 40, potentially even 50 goal scorer over the next few seasons. But he's just been so good and so fast, and his shots are so quick, and he hustles to the puck, and he's not afraid to get in there too and try to put away the trash and get those garbage goals too. We talk a lot about his quick wrist shot, but he can attack the net too and put away some rebounds if a goalie is foolish enough to give them to him. But Dylan Gunther has been absolutely incredible. And I was outside the arena and I did predict that Dylan Gunther would score the first goal. I wasn't super confident in my pick, but I do love Dylan Gunther, and I think he's going to be a phenomenal player for us. And I'm so excited that we've got him locked up, and he's really showing why, even after just one half of a season played at the professional level, that he is going to be given a very high end 8-year deal. This wasn't a $3-4 million a year. He's getting paid $7.5 million a year for 8 years, making him the payout is the same as Clayton Keller. And we all know how great Clayton Keller is. And so to give that to a player who only played half a season is just incredible. And he's earned every dollar, I think.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, when you have that type of talent, along with the youth, which is another, like, just not even for this season alone, but for the future of this franchise, how young the core, the nucleus of this team is. If this team continues along the trend that they're on currently, especially if they make the playoffs, like I believe all three of us, along with Ryan, believe they're going to do, and they make the playoffs, like the future of this team is only going to be brighter because of how good and young the core of this team is.
Yep, absolutely, and that's the bright spot is, and everybody knew that coming out of Arizona. But Dylan Gunther only 21 years old, which is very impressive because in hockey you just don't see those young guys break into the NHL all that often. Of course, you've got the elite of the elite who do, but it's much more likely that you're going to see your prospects get to their 22, 23, even 24 sometimes before they even start their first NHL game. So excellent bright spot for Dylan Gunther. And you talked about also Logan Cooley, his line mate on that second line. I think if we're going to give a hustle award, I think it's got to be a short list, and Logan Cooley's got to be on that list. Through these 4 games, he has just played with tenacity and hustle, and he's giving himself an opportunity to create plays with his defensive ability and his defensive speed. And it's almost as if the other players aren't expecting him to show that kind of hustle, and maybe thinking he's just going to be offensively gifted and maybe fall back. But I've been so impressed with his go get itness, with how we called him a menace, and he's just absolutely ferocious out there on the ice, and he's got to be bothering a lot of the players that are having to play against him.
Yeah, and that's the type of thing. If you play a sport in the state of Utah and you play that type of way, just giving the extra effort, like pressing harder and like just doing that little extra that other players don't always give, fans in Utah are going to love you. I mean, it's been that way for years with the Utah Jazz. The Jazz had a handful of years ago. His name was Damari Carroll, and he was that type of, like, fans would call him like a junkyard dog. Like, he was the one diving after balls and just giving that extra effort. And that's the type of player that this community, this state, absolutely falls in love with. And if Cooley keeps playing the way that he's playing, and we called him out after the opening game where I believe it was like a 5-on-3 penalty kill that Utah. No, actually, I don't remember if it was 5-on-3, if it was just a penalty kill, but Logan Cooley was like pressing into Utah's zone to keep the puck. I'm sorry, into the opposing team's zone to keep the puck out of Utah's zone. Just that extra effort. He's going to sell a lot of jerseys in this state, and he's going to become a fan favorite if he keeps playing that way.
Absolutely. I think it was against the Islanders that at 5-on-play, if I recall correctly. But whoever it was, I mean, he's just done so much throughout the first four games. And another, obviously, the offensive talent is there. So 16 goals for, they do believe it's third best in the NHL currently, with only behind the New Jersey Devils and I forget who else, but certainly the most goals in the Central Division at 16. So Utah's got a lot of offensive weapons, and none more important than Clayton Keller, the captain, who has 3 goals and 3 assists through these first 4 games. And that game winner against the New York Rangers, I don't know what the Rangers defense was actually thinking or what they were doing. Did they not realize that was Clayton Keller? Because if you watch that goal again, fans, you see Clayton Keller come around the net and then they just back off, almost as if they just want to witness the greatness that is Clayton Keller. And maybe that's what they did. But Clayton Keller absolutely put that top shelf over Shesterkin, and it was absolutely a beautiful goal. And he has just been so good and so important through these first 4 games, and the 6 points to show for it. But gotta love the way the captain's playing through these early games, especially on this crucial road trip, where taking 2 of the 3 so far on that road trip has just been, I think, incredible to watch.
And it has been, and I think we talked about it. We talked about it in the post game about how they just let Keller take that puck from behind the net in front of it, and then just sort of set up his shot to go top shelf right there. And I believe Ryan shared a picture with both you and I of a Rangers defenseman just sitting there looking at it like he just realized, oh my god, we just let him completely alone, didn't we? Just so a lot of really good things, especially offensively for this team. I want to move to the other side, to the back line, to the news that we heard this morning. GM Bill Armstrong on the radio with Hans Olsen and Scott Gerard addressing the future of Sean Durzi, who exited the last game with an injury. He is out for the foreseeable future, is the term that he used on the radio. So we don't know exactly how long it's going to be, but it's going to be likely a while. Brandon, I want to know, how is Utah going to fill that hole?
Very difficultly or poorly. It's not going to be easy to lose a guy like Sean Durzi. He's our the second of the first pairing with Mikhail Sergachev, and I will be 100% honest. I have not been impressed with Mikhail Sergachev's pure defensive ability. He's produced on the offensive side, but a lot of defensive lapses, in my opinion, in terms of position awareness. And Sean Durzi has really stepped up and kind of filled that gap there. So the question then becomes, who's going to play with Sergachev? Now, when Durzi went out, it was Kolyanchenok who filled in that role on the even strength side. Now, on the penalty kill, Sergachev plays with Ian Cole. So do you put the question will become, do you break up the Valimaki Kessel Ring pairing, which they did not do at all in that game against the Devils? So that pairing stayed there, their second pairing, and I think they will stay. So Robert Bortuzzo is the defenseman who's going to come in and be our 6th defenseman, right? He's on the team. He's just been a healthy scratch. We only need to run 6 defensemen per game. So Robert Bortuzzo is going to come in. Here's the problem. Robert Bortuzzo is 35 years old. So is Ian Cole. So if you put Ian Cole and Robert Bortuzzo on a line together, you have the oldest defensive pairing currently in the NHL at a combined 70 years old. The next was 70 or 69.
Nice.
I don't know how that's going to work. So I don't know if Kolyanchenok goes up to the first line. I don't know if Ian Cole jumps up to the first line. but it's if he doesn't, and I suspect it will be Kolyanchenuk who will, and Ian Cole and Robert Bortuzzo will play that third line. I expect them to play not a lot of minutes, which the first two lines are going to have to play heavily until, obviously, like your science suggests, until John Marino comes back. With each week that Sean Durzi's out, that is a huge loss for an already struggling defensive team in Utah.
Now, just to play a little bit of devil's advocate to the point that you're making, how many minutes do you think, total on ice minutes, do you think the third line defense is actually going to have to play? And is there an argument to be made for the age and experience uh, being a benefit for an older third line back line where they know what they're doing, they know what's expected of them, as long as they're not asked to be on the ice for too long based on their age? Is there an argument to be made that that could actually be beneficial for the team?
There is an argument to be made. So through the first four games, that third defensive pairing on even strength has played for just over 26 minutes. So, divide that by four. What are we at? 6.5, 7 minutes a game, even strength. So you're doing okay. Now, the one problem is Utah has taken so many penalties. I think that is skewed because their penalty kill defensive pairing has had to be on the ice so many times. I think what you're not completely wrong. I think that even if we have Cole and Bertuzzo on the third line, they're not going to be asked to move the world. They're not going to be asked to play 22, 23 minutes a game. And that's what we're paying Sergachev to do as the top line defenseman. And we'll see. So I think the big question, though, is will they break up the Kesselring Valimaki line? And I'm going to predict the answer is no. So look for Vladislav Kolyanchenuk to make the jump to the first line pairing, and Cole and Bortuzzo to stay on that third line. And we hope Sean Durzi comes back soon. I would not like us to go past Thanksgiving without Sean Durzi. That will not be good unless John Marino comes back. And even if he does, I mean, I don't think Marino was a guy we were looking at to be the top line defenseman either. I projected him to be a solid third line defenseman. So the injury to Sean Durzi really, really hurts. But maybe we get to see Maverick Lamoureux come in. He probably won't play too much, but maybe a healthy scratch. You never know. He's a bright young star, and he will be good in the future. But he'll be in Tucson for most of the year, if not all of the year, and likely for at least half the year next year. So we'll see how that plays out with how long Durzi's out. But while
Yeah,
we're on the talking, you go, Dustin. Sorry.
I was just going to add, ideally we get Durzi back because John Marino is probably still at least a few, if not several weeks away from returning. But even when he does come back, like he just got traded to the team. He doesn't he hasn't skated with this roster before, and he wasn't here for training camp either. So he's going to be coming into a team that he hasn't even been on ice with, and it's not as if he's just going to fall right into place and exactly know what's going on, where he's supposed to be, how to play off his lines partner. So you'd rather get Durzi back, but I mean, adding Moreno is going to be a boost, but he's not going to solve the problem that's created by missing Durzi.
No, not at all. And it's one of those things. Utah's kind of in this awkward point. If you're a Utah Utes fan, like the stress and of like unknown injuries, right? An indeterminate length of injuries, and that's where we're at with Sean Durzi. Is we just know that it's an upper body injury, and we just know that he's going to be out for the foreseeable future, and that we don't know what that means yet. I don't believe he's officially on the IR yet, so that's, I guess, a good sign. But I don't expect to see him back in the month of October. So we'll see.
So with the NHL, just to clarify on a rule set, I'm more familiar with like the NFL, where if you go on injured reserve, you have to miss at least 6 games. I believe is you're going to be out for at least 6 weeks. How does that rule work in the NHL if you get added to like an actual injury list, added removed from a roster as an injured player?
Yeah, that's an excellent question, Dustin. So the NHL rules for the injured reserve list, they have to be injured for a minimum of 7 days to be placed on the IR. Now, if you're familiar with the IR rules or the IR manipulation that has gone on specifically in Las Vegas, once you're on the long term IR list, then your salary cap is released and you can bring in a player. Now, the rules are not set in terms of when you can bring a guy back. And as long as he's back before the end of the playoffs, he's eligible to play in the playoffs. And so what you saw is Las Vegas and manipulating, depending on if you're a Vegas fan or not, where they would place their best player, Mark Stone, on the long-term injured reserve list, released his cap, paid people of ideally comparable skill to get them still in the playoffs, and then they reactivate Mark Stone the day before the playoffs, and boom, so they don't have to lose out on anything. I am hoping if we get into that situation with Durzi, then it is not going to be good. So let's hope that it stays on that minimum of 7 days, and I would say between 7 and 21 days likely for this type of injury. But unless he's got like a broken rib, which I'm not sure. I've never actually had a broken rib. I'm not sure how quickly they heal, but you're not going to be skating out on the ice taking a bunch of checks if you've got broken ribs. So hopefully maybe just a bruised ribs, which hopefully cleared up in 3 to 4 weeks.
Yeah, I don't know about ribs. Broken bones usually take 4 to 6 weeks. I know I broke a finger in a very hardcore football game a while back, and it was 6 weeks, and it's typically for broken bones is a 6 week recovery process, but it may be a little bit different for the ribs because they're around such vital organs. Maybe it's a little bit longer, but hopefully it's not going to be that long.
We'll let you know as soon as our sources let us know, or somebody else breaks the news first. But one thing too with not just Durzi, if we're talking about defensive lapses, so the Utah Hockey Club has been very gifted offensively and lackluster, shall we say, defensively, allowing the second most goals against in the Central Division. Surprisingly, the Colorado Avalanche have allowed 20 goals against through only 3 games. So it could be worse, fans. Could be a lot worse. But their defensive scheme as a whole absolutely needs to improve. I don't really want to get into this high octane, 6-5, 7-5 type, dueling affairs. And I don't believe the coaching staff does either. So hopefully they can clean up the defense as a whole and continue the offensive power. But the defense needs to step up. And part of that comes from disciplined play. We've discussed this, that the team is just taking way too many penalties. They are the most penalized team by penalty minutes and the second most team by penalties. Only the Boston Bruins have more minors than the Utah Hockey Club. So the penalty kill right now sits at just under 80% at 79.5%, which is not, I mean, it's not like the worst that it could possibly be, but the elite penalty kills are all above 90%, and we just need to not take those penalties, right? If we're going to be giving up 80% of those goals, Utah's given up a penalty goal, or a power play goal rather, in each of their first 4 games. And with just the amount of penalties we're taking, where the 80% mark is not good enough, and I think we just need to just be more disciplined on the ice. We're getting a little too excited, maybe.
Yeah, and like you said, the percentage at which they're killing penalties isn't terrible. But if you're going to put the other team on the power play 7 times like they did against the Devils, you're going to have to kill a whole lot more. You're going to have to be in at least the mid 90s if that's going to be sustainable. So rather than put yourself in a box where you have to kill that many penalties, just play a little bit smarter. Just Keep your stick down. Stop whacking the opposing players up around their grill, and play smarter, because some of them are just like a high stick, which I believe they got penalized for twice against New Jersey. Like, that's not being aggressive. That's not like trying to play tough, because they got out hit something like 30-6 against the Devils. Like, Utah was not aggressive or physical in that game at all, but they were still waving their sticks around like they're casting spells in Hogwarts. So let's keep our sticks down. Don't go to the box as much. And that right there, in and of itself, is going to help relieve some of that defensive pressure and take a lot of pressure off of our goalies. Because, like you said, the goalie play wasn't bad against New Jersey. But when you face 33 shots on goal, like, you're not going to be able to stop that many. Like, the save percentage was 90, above 90, and just you're not going to be able to save that many shots. And when the offensive game just isn't clicking like it was not against New Jersey, you're going to find yourself digging some big holes, when the perfect storm of facing a bunch of penalty kills along with your offense not jiving, you're going to find yourself in a lot of big holes that are going to be hard to climb out of.
Yep, absolutely. And I think it's necessary to turn our attention to the goaltending, because that's going to be a big part of dealing with the Sean Durzi injury, is going to see how does Connor Ingram and Karel Vejmelka play with the absence of that top line pairing. Now, Vejmelka has only played the one game against New Jersey, and I thought he played phenomenally. Like I said, above 90% save percentage, and allowed those three goals. But if you look at the statistics for Connor Ingram, we've felt that Connor Ingram is one of those, like, done just enough to win games. He's tied for first in the league with total wins. He's currently, if you look at by franchise, we like to say the old joke, the winningest franchise goalie in history at 100. He's won 100% of the games he's started. But if you just look at his raw stats, you would not believe it. Like, Dustin, if I gave you these stats at the end of the year, okay, save percentage 87.4% with a goals against average of 3.54. If you knew nothing else but just those two stats, how would you say the season went?
Okay, run them by me again. I gotta think about
So
this.
save percentage is 87.4,
Okay.
874. Goals against 3.54.
I think that would put Utah about where they were last year. I think Utah would be good, but not great, and just on the outside looking in of the playoff picture.
Yeah, I would absolutely agree. I would say, if with stats like that, with knowing nothing else, I would say it would be shocking if we got more than 70 points. So statistically, Connor Ingram, I think, needs to play better. I think he wants to play better, and I think he's capable of playing better. Maybe hasn't gotten a lot of help on the defensive end, has had to make some incredible saves and has done so. Highlight reel saves, but I hate to say this, but generally speaking, when you're making highlight reel saves, it's because somebody was out of position defensively, or you got beat defensively and put your goaltender in a position where he had to make a highlight reel save to keep out the goal. So, as fans, we love it. We love to see those exciting highlight reel saves. But from a I like my defense perspective, you would much rather see a very boring, just, give me 26 shots and let me save 24, 25 of them per game, and call it good. So I think Connor Ingram's he got himself a break with Vejmelka taking over in game 4. I suspect Connor Ingram to start against the Ducks, and I expect another win from him. And at the end of the day, I guess that's really all that matters, is the wins. But We've also got the over under on shutouts to worry about, and we almost all of us took the over of 7 shutouts. So how do you feel about overall? How do you feel about Connor Ingram's play this season so far through the 3 games he's started?
I mean, it hasn't been great. Admittedly, it has not been great. Um, there have been, I mean, obviously, if you're going to give up a goal that just hits the boards and takes a crazy bounce as you're trying to play the puck behind the net. Like there's nothing that Connor can do about that. But he does need help from his from his defenseman. We talked about 2 goals. I believe it was against the Rangers. One where Kerfoot was just pressed too far against the blue line and gave an open shot to his man. And then another one where Sergachev just didn't press his man and gave his man an open look in the net. And both of those were shots that maybe Ingram should be stopping anyways, because it's not like there was a bunch of traffic in between him. They were just shots on net that I would expect Connor Ingram to save. But that doesn't mean that his defensemen don't also have to help him out and play better and not give up those clear shots. So I think it's a team effort. Connor hasn't been great. He hasn't been bad, but the defense needs to be better as well.
Absolutely, absolutely. I think the Edmonton Oilers style of hockey, the we're just going to simply score more than you and, damn everything else. I don't like that style of hockey. It's very exciting hockey, but obviously it hasn't won a championship yet. And while we're on the subject of the Edmonton Oilers, once again, really struggling to open the season 0-3. Last year, they were obviously towards the bottom of the basement in the beginning of the season, and then they just turned it on. So that's the important thing to note this early in the season. It's hard to jump the gun, but I'm going to do it. And I want to say one thing: the Colorado Avalanche absolutely suck. And I've seen teams suck before, but they were the suckiest bunch of sucks that ever sucked. But Ryan and I have an ongoing joke, Dustin. I don't know if you've caught on, but I said that the Colorado Avalanche are going to live and die by Nichushkin, and he is currently out because he's serving his suspension for violating his player probation for partying a little too much. So suspect once they get him back, things are going to go great. But currently the Central is wide open, of course, with the exception of the Dallas Stars and the Winnipeg Jets, who are both playing phenomenal hockey. Obviously, they both have the 2 best goalies in the Central. We talked about this in our rundown of the Central. Connor Hellebuyck for Winnipeg and Jake Ottinger for Dallas, 2 of the best goalies in the league, but certainly the 2 best in the Central. And both have played phenomenal, and it's just a matter of workload at this point. Hopefully the Winnipeg Jets continue to work Hellebuyck into the ground. They win the regular season, then they suck during the playoffs. That's something that I think Utah has an advantage about, and I hope they don't go too overboard with it, but they do have that 1-2 punch in Connor Ingram and Vejmelka, and I think other teams aren't that stable in their backup position, where I don't want to play pure split reps. I don't want them to each get 41 starts. That's not healthy in my opinion. I'd like to see Connor Ingram get 60. I'd like to see Vejmelka get 22, and then we're sitting good. But the fact that Vejmelka can handle the workload, I think, is going to help Utah where other teams are going to struggle. But have you had a chance to see your old team, the Stars? Have you had a chance to look at the Central at all, or any thoughts in general about the Central Division? Utah in 3rd place in the Central, by the way, 3rd place.
The Stars currently 4-0-0, undefeated, but needed a shootout to beat the Sharks tonight. So maybe that's a little bit of fool's gold, that undefeated record right there. I mean, you give up 2 goals to the Sharks, and they're a glorified ECHL team, and you give up 2 goals to them in the same period, and then you need a shootout. You can't even win it in the 3-on-3 overtime. You need a shootout to beat the Sharks. Overrated, I say. Overrated. 4-0-0 doesn't mean what it used to mean. And also as we're talking about the Oilers and their 0-3 start, currently down 2-0 to the Flyers in the first period, so they could move to 0-4. So a little bit of craziness going on so far for the teams that are supposed to be good, with the overrated Dallas Stars and the Oilers.
Well, I think I'm kind of in line with your thinking that I think Dallas is paper tigers. I know Ryan would not be happy about that, as I released my way too early power rankings for the Central Division internally to the Two Line Pass team. It was not received well, but we'll see. We're going to do those power rankings at the end of October, and then we're going to release them monthly. And I'm excited to see, but I would like to. I razz Dallas for they beat a winless Nashville Predators team and now barely beat a pretty awful San Jose team. Yeah, maybe a little bit of a paper tiger there. But Utah, the Central Division looks competitive, wide open, and currently we're sitting in that auto playoff spot. Obviously, 3 games in, 79 to go, or 4 games in rather, 78 to go. But I am liking where we're at in this season. But Dustin, are there any other general thoughts that you want to talk about for this Utah Hockey Club 4 games in?
But before I talk about that, I do want to mention also, you said something about the Stars beating Nashville. The Stars only beat Nashville 4-3. Nashville gave up 7 goals to the freaking Kraken tonight. So just lends more to the paper tiger argument. So I think we're on the right track. But let's see. The next week we have Anaheim and Boston, which is going to be a highlight of just penalty minutes after penalty minutes if this season continues along the trend it's already been on. And then close out the week with the Ottawa Senators, which I believe is actually technically next week, but we'll play that before we record our next weekly episode. So those are the 3 games we get to see before it happens. And I'm going to predict Utah goes 2-1 in those 3 games.
Yep. I'm right there with you. I predicted us to beat Anaheim and beat Ottawa and lose to Boston. But he said Boston's a very undisciplined team. Currently, Boston's sitting at 2-2, and penalty minutes playing a huge part in that. So that one, I think it's at home, so it's the second home game. Liam O'Brien's going to be there. He's probably going to fight somebody. Boston is a scrappy fighting team.
You just want him to fight somebody so you can hit your over. Every game, I want fights. I want to hit my over.
What do we got him on the team for if not to punch people in the face?
He's on the team because he won the press conference. We've addressed this ad nauseum.
But I thought he won the press conference because he promised to fight. He's actually he's been impressive, though, all things considered. We've talked about it before. But either way, if you have tickets to the Utah-Boston game, you are in for some exciting hockey. Hopefully it doesn't devolve into complete madness, but you're going to see some fireworks, some exciting news there, and exciting to look forward to.
Yeah, if you have tickets to that game, you better be ready to hear that inferior PA announcer say, "This is another Utah Hockey Club SOS Staffing shorthanded situation." I don't even know if it's sponsored by SOS Staffing, but the Grizzlies used to be, so that's what I'm calling.
That's one thing I've noticed about the NHL. I did not expect it, but they don't do that. Not really. He announces the goals, and that's pretty much it. And I don't know if that's a rule or just a preference thing, but I think getting a sponsor for your PK and your power play, that's just a no-brainer to make some quick buckaroonies. So, yep. Hey, if you need some help, you talk to Dustin and I, and you're missing out on some money, Ryan. You're missing out on some money, and you need to hire us to let you squeeze out every dollar. But
and if you'd made the right decision in the PA announcer job anyways, then I'd be doing it for free of charge. Because SOS Staffing is just the perfect sponsor for a short-handed situation. So I'm just going to toss it out there anyways. Look how good I am. This episode powered by the beautiful taste of vanilla Coca-Cola Zero. Get yourself one today, your local Maverick.
That's beautiful. That is beautiful. Coke, if you're listening, I mean, can you pass up my... Well, they're probably sponsors. Like, well, we get free marketing. Yeah, we get free.
Yeah, now Coke is saying we're getting it for free. Why would we pay them? So
why buy the cow when you can get the milk for free?
Drink yourself a delicious Pepsi Zero. Fuck you, Coke.
Now we got a bidding war. We got a bidding war, fans. But hey, Dustin, any closing thoughts before we sign off tonight?
I think I already did. We're going to go 2-1 in that stretch.
2-1 in that stretch, guys. It's going to be exciting, and we're hoping for another fantastic round of games. One more on the road trip, and then they're back home for a couple of games in a row. We hope to see you there. Hey, thanks so much for listening to us tonight. Ryan, you get feeling better, buddy, and everybody, have yourself a great night.